I can buy myself flowers. I can something else. Hello there. We are back. Another fantastic. My phone stopped charging. Hold on. Anyway, welcome back to .NET Phillies. Shout out. So obviously this is you can't really see it in the thing. I have a t-shirt of my logo, and there's like I can't like hold on. Just give me you can like kind of you know it's like stuff on the back. Yeah, here's a better view. Let me no down there. You probably couldn't hear any of what I was saying because of the microphone. But shout out to Ashlyn's mom for making this for me. I have other t-shirts that I posted on my main story, like of my own personal profile. So I'm gonna be making them probably for myself for now at least, and we'll see, what comes down further down the line. But it's been a week. We have two series to go over. We have the Blue Jay series and the Rocky series. All good things to say outside of today, but I'm taking it kind of with a grain of salt. I think today is one of those games that was like a scheduled loss because, they were riding the hot hand. It's hard to sweep a team, especially away. So not reading too much into what happened today all too much. There was a fight. We'll get into that. I'm actually going to write that down because I didn't even write down any notes for this game. It was and then terrible. You think I would do this stuff prior, but it's been a week. It's been a week. So um new succulents. I did some upgrading whilst I was away I did some amateur hour. We're lighting up the candle. Light it up. There's only good vibes with this team right now. So this is for the good vibes. Alrighty. Let's get right into headlines. Some of these are a little older just because obviously I've been away for a week. So we had Andrew Painter was being looked at by the big league club. They hope to get him back soon throwing, which is a great sign. They kind of wanted to get him into the environment of the big league club. So it was really nice to see that. It was confirmed that Matt Strahm will not be used in back-to-back days, at least for now, which I thought was interesting because he is primarily in the bullpen now. Like that is his role, especially with Ranger coming back, and we'll get the Ranger once we talk about the Colorado series. So it was interesting that I think they're almost using Strahm right now as a break glass in case of emergency kind of situation, which don't misunderstand me. I dig it. I want to make sure that, no. I want to they want to make sure that, in case they need him to do a spot start, that he's ready to go there. He's not going to be burnt out because he's used 3 out of the last 5 days. So I like that a lot. In injury news, we had Alvarado is actually headed to the IL. At first it was with elbow inflammation, and it was a little worrisome because whenever you hear, a pitcher, especially a guy who throws 100 miles an hour, when you hear elbow inflammation, you immediately think the absolute worst. But luckily we've gotten updates since then, and it just seems like it is just going to be the 15 days. And the inflammation went down. He had an MRI. They said it all looked good. So at this point, he's practically just riding out the rest of that IL stint at this point. And I think this is arguably the biggest news of the entire news cycle. So a couple weeks ago during the Dodgers series, Edmundo Sosa booted a ball basically that allowed 2 runs to score that got tacked onto Alvarado. And, ultimately it didn't lead to a Phillies loss, but like it kind of did. So initially wasn't charged an error, but then today it came out that they changed it to an error. So thanks, MLB. Shout out to you. And, yeah, I mean, and that's gonna wrap up headlines. So basically in this show, we're gonna go talk about the two Blue Jay games. We're gonna talk about the Rockies games, and then we're gonna talk about the series coming up against the San Francisco Giants. The Gabe Kapler led San Francisco Giants. So let's get into it. Game one in Toronto, or not in Toronto, but game one versus Toronto. The Phillies won 8-4. My player of the game was Nick Castellanos. So my whole thing with this game is, and I still think this to this day, I think this was one of the most well-sound games that the Phillies have played from an offensive standpoint. They were down early. Bichette had that RBI double in the third. But then the Phillies just battled right back. Castellanos hit a 2-run home run in the fourth to make it 2-1. And then Turner added on to make it 3-1. Bo Bichette was kind of a killer in this series, but I mean, he is one of the best offensive players in baseball. But something, they were just disciplined at the plate. They tacked on runs, which I didn't know was allowed in the year 2023. I didn't know a Phillies team was allowed to tack on runs, but apparently it is allowed. Then, you had JT add on in the sixth, Sosa in the sixth as well. And then we get to the seventh inning, which was terrifying. So the Phillies go into the seventh inning. They're up 5-2. And Seranthony, you could tell from the first couple pitches, he just didn't have it. And then you had first and second on a couple hits, and you think he gets a ground ball to Bohm, and Bohm kind of and you got to give credit to the runner Kiermaier at this point. He kind of looked back, saw Bohm was kind of looking this way to throw to second to try to get the double play, and Kiermaier kind of went into his path. But in that same time, you're Seranthony, you're coming off of that. You're running to first base to cover to get the relay throw from the shortstop or the second baseman, whomever's covering. And, you see, for Seranthony, you see Bohm kind of like that turn. He sees, the runner, and then Bohm tries to flip it to Seranthony, but Seranthony's not looking. It causes the ball to go to go into the in foul territory, causing an error to make it 5-3. It just wasn't Seranthony's night tonight. And then you get to Soto, who also came into the seventh to kind of weather the storm. He struck out George Springer pretty easily. Like, I think that might have been one of the quickest strikeouts that I've ever seen. It was just boom, 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 boom. And then you get to Chapman, and I don't understand the Chapman at bat. He ended up hitting him on a 3-2 pitch, but for some reason he did like that sidestep thing that he does, which I don't understand when you have 98 in your back pocket. And I understand that Matt Chapman's been one of the best offensive players in the league right now, but you got to attack that guy, especially when he waved at 298 plus mile an hour pitches that Soto gave. But anyway, no harm, no foul. Chapman gets hit by the pitch, makes it 5-4. And then I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Then we get to the eighth, and Marsh had an RBI double, which I honestly thought was going to get out, or it was going to go one of two ways. Either the way it went, or Kiermaier was just going to make like an unreal catch, which I really thought, because Kiermaier is just so good out there. So luckily that didn't happen. Then Stott had a fielder's choice. But I kind of want to talk about Nola, and I'll talk about Nola later when I talk about the Rockies game. Nola went 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. That's really good. Like, Nola has been riding the ship. It's a little bit of a slower turn than I think some fans would hope for, but he's consistently going 6 innings plus 2 to 3 runs. That's, compared to what we were getting earlier from Aaron Nola, I think that is that's a big deal. And, I've been hard on Nola, and I think it's not out of left field, the reason I'm being hard on Nola. But at the same time, he's been stepping up. He's been pitching a lot better. The only thing is his strikeouts are way, way, way down this year. But I think that has to do with him messing with his velocity a little bit, kind of doing the thing that Verlander does, meaning that starts the game sitting like 90, 92 and ramps up as the game goes on. So if that's the plan with Nola, it's seemingly working out so far. I think there was a bit of an adjustment period with him because he's used to going all out off the gate and then kind of teetering out later, where I think the Phillies are trying to get him to a point where he can kind of, cruise instead of gas, and then you flame out when you need it the most, which is in September, October, and even into November. And then when we saw that in the playoffs last year, somebody who really impressed me is Craig Kimbrel was pumping 98 like pretty consistently, and especially with that injury to Alvarado, you kind of need a guy to step up. And Craig Kimbrel, outside of that Dodgers game, has been pretty good this year. Like, a lot better than I thought a lot of people were going to give him credit for. So shout out to Craig Kimbrel. Very, very happy to have, Atlanta Braves Craig Kimbrel back. Never said anything bad about the signing. Never said he's a washed up piece of garbage. Never said the game is over as soon as you see 31 enter a game. Those sentences have never come out of my mouth, and I don't want anybody thinking otherwise. Hoosers, we get the game 2 now. My player of the game was Zach Wheeler. Yes, the game went extras, but Zach Wheeler looked like Zach Wheeler. This was a pitcher's duel from Jump Street. You had Zach Wheeler going up against Kevin Gausman, two really, really, really good pitchers, which did not know Kevin Gausman can throw 98 miles an hour, but apparently he can. So there was just a lot of back and forth. The game was going by pretty quickly. And then Brandon Belt had a solo home run in the 5th. And I'm like, of all people, Brandon Belt, who like stinks, 2-time World Series champion Brandon Belt. But I was like, really, of all the guys, you have in a lineup that consists of like Vladdy, Bo Bichette, Chapman, Springer, you're going to tell me that Brandon Belt is the guy to beat us? And it was 1-0. Get to the 9th inning. JT had that RBI double. You then had that bad base running by Nick Castellanos that cost them the run there. And then you had kind of the weirdest thing. Shout out to Bo Bichette. Harper scorched the ball back to the 10th, right up the middle. Pitcher flags it down, throws it the second for 1, and then Bichette just yanks the ball. Then Bichette just yanks the ball. And I was like, how about it? And then you had the Harper gif where he's like, I'll take it. So, it was a very uneventful game in the sense that, there wasn't a lot of storylines coming out of it. The pitching was really good. Zach Wheeler, 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. That's giant. To have Nola and Wheeler be back, quote unquote back, I think is huge for this team. It seems like the rotation outside of Falter is kind of starting to level out and be what we expected them to be with Nola, with Wheeler, with Walker. Walker's been really good his past couple starts. Ranger was pretty good in his first start. It's just that 5th starter spot. If Falter on an extra day's rest can hopefully dial it up a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see. And we'll talk about Falter once we kind of get into Game 3 of the Rocky series as well as the Giants series because they pushed him back. So I also got to give a shout out to Craig Kimbrel again. Kimbrel came into the 10th and dialed it up again. Got 2 strikeouts, got out of the inning. You fully expect and I, admittingly, I am a fan of the 10th inning rules, the extra inning rules. I love it. I love the ghost runner. I just think it's like 1 inning, maybe 2 more innings sometimes because like the classic baseball fan in me loves like the games that would go until like 1 a.m. and then you have like, like the Wilson Valdez game years ago, or you had the Roman Quinn game a few years ago. So, those are always nice and fun, but at the same time, I like the game only having to go an extra inning or two. So I expected Kimbrel to give up the run. He never did. So that's a winning streak right there. We're at 3 games. Now we're on the win number 4. Moving on to the Colorado Rockies series. So I'm going to preface this in saying the Phillies won the series 2-3. As long as, they didn't come back. Yeah, there's no shot. Anyway, so the Phillies won the series 2-3, and that was the first series win the Phillies have had in Colorado since 2012, which I thought was insane. So in game 1, my player of the game was Bryce Harper. And I got to say, this might have been the first 6 innings might have been the quickest I've ever seen. The Phillies didn't want to work counts, and neither did the Rockies. Like within an hour, we were in like the 6th inning, like the bottom of the 6th inning in like an hour. So, which is good for Ashlyn because she hates watching the games with me, but I love her and she always suffers through it. But yeah, the thing with Ashlyn is she does not like watching the Phillies games, but because she's the best girlfriend in the world, will just let me watch it. As long as she always I get hyped when I'm watching Phillies games. So like if Harper hits like a home run or something, I'm like, yeah, let's go. And she's like, settle down. So I just go like this. When the Phillies do something good. So shout out to Ashlyn. So you had the scoring was broken open in the 6th with CJ Cron had a sac fly, and then you had a Bohm run and a Schwarbaum in the 7th to make it 3-1. Then you had Ezekiel Tovar and Charlie Blackmon had a couple RBIs to tie it, and then Bryce Harper when the lights are brightest, Bryce Harper came up RBI double in the 8th, and then he stole a base, and then Elias Diaz threw the ball away, allowed Harper to score to make it 6-3. It was just awesome. It was just awesome to see. Then Kimbrel shut it down in the 9th. It was just a very clean, just put up the tie. This is how a good team wins baseball games, and that was exactly what that is. They were getting not dominated, but they just weren't working good at bats. They weren't doing anything. Like I think the game plan going in, when you're talking with Topper and when you're talking with Kevin Long and whoever else is, this guy is going to throw strikes and then just attack. They did that, but not to any success. So the game was moving, and I guess that was the same plan that the Rockies had with Taijuan Walker, because Walker went 6 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. Huge to see no walks again from Taijuan. So I know I made the meme where it's like his walks are down, cool. But seriously, I mean, you got to be, I've been happy with how they have fixed kind of his game plan. His attack mode. I know I said his a lot in that. I was trying to figure out the words. They said, you're just going to throw your splitter a lot, and that's exactly what he's been doing, and it's been extremely effective. You have Matt Strahm, Sir Anthony, and Kimbrel all tackle scoreless innings, so I got to give a shout out to them. And again, it was just a very professional win. I was very happy with, with the way that that every pitcher has been throwing the ball. Like since the Dodgers series, it's been pretty good pitching wise. Like, yes, teams are going to have bad series, and that was an embarrassing series. And I even said it on here. It was embarrassing, but you got to look at it in the sense that this team is good. This has a good pitching staff. It has a very, very good, kind of bullpen, and they've showed it. So, speaking of good bullpens, we move on to game 2. So the Phillies are up 1-0. You have Ranger Suarez making his season debut. No JT in the lineup last night. He had the sprained pinky, but he was in the lineup today, so no worry there. My players of the game was the Phillies bullpen. 5 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts coming from the Phillies bullpen. So how can't you be impressed with that? The Phillies hit the ground running against against Ryan Feltner, and we'll talk about him later because there was a scary moment in this game. I guess we'll talk about it pretty in like 30 seconds. But he had Castellanos, Bohm, and Clemens all with RBIs to make it 4-0. Then we get into the second inning, and Castellanos hits a line drive off of Ryan Feltner's head, which is so scary. I like audibly gasped, and I was like, oh my God, like this is terrible. Luckily, he was able to get up on his own. Obviously, he's shaking. There was no blood. I don't know if there was any reports today about him. I'm going to see if there was while we're here. Let me see. Ryan Feltner. He suffered a skull fracture. He's on the 15-day injured list. He was and he was concussed. So a very scary sight, but luckily he is seemingly okay for now. Obviously, a skull fracture and a concussion's not good, but it could have been a lot worse. So very good to see that. And then moving back to the game, Alan Trejo had a sac fly in the second, Crone RBI double in the third, McMahon had an RBI double in the third, and the Phillies offense after that first inning, poof, gone. They allowed the Rockies to get back in this game, which was very frustrating because, Rockies are they're scrappy a little bit. Like their bullpen actually isn't bad. The rotation is terrible. Their offense is not awful. Like they're like they're a scrappy little team. And I'm sure somebody's going to come back to this in July when the Rockies are like 50 games under 500 and be like, what are you talking about? You then had the return of Ranger Suarez. So Ranger Suarez went 4 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. That's about it. Exactly what I expected from Ranger coming back. 4 or 5 innings, a few runs. That's about what you're going to get from Ranger. I thought he looked really comfortable. He wasn't getting his spots down, but it's your first start of the year. Like it's going to be a little bit before you're back in, being that. But to get him back is huge, man. Like I love Ranger Suarez. He's one of my favorite pitchers. And, I thought he was fine. It's going to take a little bit for him to get into like 5, 6, 7. But, we all know about Ranger is he's going to attack hitters. He kind of got, he was hanging a few of his pitches and had to make adjustments because the umpire wasn't giving him the calls that he wanted. So you kind of had to, he kind of left a lot of stuff over the plate and he's just going to get better. Connor Brogdon went a couple innings. Bellotti made his return from the IL. He was the other roster move that came along with Alvarado going down. They called him back. He went an inning, had 2 strikeouts. It wasn't a pretty inning. He threw like 20 some pitches, but he got it, got the job done, but it was not a pretty inning. And then you had Ezekiel Tovar, you had Garrett Stubbs with an insurance run in the 8th. Then Tovar had an RBI ground out in the 8th to make it 5-4. Then Harper came up, had a 2-run home run, and Harper has the prettiest swing in baseball. Bryce Harper is one of the best players in baseball. Like I honestly said, I thought Harper when he was going to come back was going to be bad. Harper has not skipped a beat. He's hitting like over 300, has a couple home runs, is working great counts. He's not jumpy at the plate. I've been not shocked because he's Bryce Harper, but I've been shocked at Bryce Harper so far this year. It's awesome to have him back, but had a 2-run home run. It's time to talk. It's time to have a conversation about Trey Turner. Trey Turner has been bad. Yeah, Phillies lost 4-0. Okay. Shout out to the Phils. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to play, Phils. Not a getaway day or anything. But it's time to have a conversation about Trey Turner. He has been bad so far in a Phillies uniform on both sides of the ball. He is striking out at a career high rate. He's not walking. He is working bad at bats. His defense has been fine. It's been a little below average. He had a blunder in this game where CJ Crone had a line drive and he just kind of went up for it and he just missed it, just straight up missed it. So I'm not worried about Turner yet. I don't think, I swear to God, if he's this year's Nick Castellanos, I'm going to be very, very upset. I think he turns it around. He's riding this hit streak, but even in the hit streak, he's hitting like 260. So it's like, like, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to fall, basically, with Trey Turner. It's been very frustrating so far because this Phillies team is finding ways to win without, their $300 million player. Their $330 million man is doing perfectly fine, but the idea was to have Turner Harper, 1-2 punch, and it's been one punch, and that has been Bryce Harper. So I don't know what to say about Turner. He's been very, very underwhelming so far, but we get to game 3 and it was meh. Nola, 6 innings, gave up 4 runs, only had 3 strikeouts. So again, like I mentioned before, he has just, his strikeout numbers have not been good. He battled a lot in this game. It just felt like, again, a scheduled loss. Like I even said to myself, I'm like, I know Nola isn't going to shove today. It's just going to be one of those days. The umpiring in this game was awful. There was a call, I believe, in the 7th inning of a double play hit by Sosa, and the second baseman wasn't on the bag, and they called him out, and Sosa may have beat out the runner, but they claimed that the Phillies didn't challenge in time, even though they did, but they didn't, and then it was just a lot of frustration. That then led to a full-out brawl featuring $330 million man, Phillies designated hitter Bryce Harper, where I forget, it was Bird. It was sucked in this game. He got bailed out by the umpires, basically, and walked a couple guys. Then he got lucky with that grounder from Sosa, and then he was like chirping at the Phillies dugout and just talking a lot of smack. Harper went right after him. Harper and Bird both got ejected from the game. But I think that was an attempt to fire up the Phillies offense, to be like, hey, guys, like, we can beat this team. We can sweep them. But obviously that didn't work. So, it was just an annoying game. But I expected them to lose this game. I'm not upset about it. They won the series out there, and that's the most important thing. Whether it was win the first 2 and lose the third one, or lose the first one and win the next 2, they still took 2 out of 3 in Colorado, which is huge because Colorado has been a house of horrors for the Phillies in years past. So I'm glad we kind of got over that hump. Now we move on to the San Francisco Giants, another house of horror. Game 1 is going to be Bailey Falter versus Alex Wood, and I don't know if they announced pitchers yet because I saw, let's see, oh God, 9:45 tomorrow. Let me see. Sorry. So yeah, they announced, where's the website? Here we go. We're moving. So game 1 is Bailey Falter versus Alex Wood, which I like. I like pushing Falter back, mostly because the idea is for him to get more velocity on his pitches. Let me see this here. Okay. So yes, Bailey Falter, then Alex Cobb, and TBD. So we don't know who's going to be starting, but try to steal a game out there. I expect them to lose 2 out of 3, especially with Cobb, with the way he's throwing the ball. And again, San Francisco has been a house of horrors for the Phillies in recent years. So it's going to be tough, but hopefully they take 1 game, and they play tomorrow, right? Yes. So I will be back on Wednesday, and then so I'm going to have to do another like mega episode. So that I'll record on Wednesday after the Phillies wrap up that series. And then maybe no, yeah. And then I won't be back until the following Wednesday because I will be away Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll be home Monday. So maybe what I'll do is record Monday when I get back before the Phillies game, maybe release that episode talking about the Cubs series and then preview the Diamondback series and then record on Wednesday. So maybe I'll do that. I haven't made really a decision yet if I'll do that and then maybe put both together like I did here, or just do two separate episodes. The only reason I did these two together is because there was only two games to talk about in Toronto. So, whatever. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys for listening. Feel free to follow on all my socials, link down below. And we will be back on either Monday or no, we'll be back Wednesday, and then we'll figure out when we're going to be back from there. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.